Here is the practical read on Gemini 3.5 Flash. Google is not only shipping another cheaper chatbot. The pitch is speed for agents, coding loops, tool calls, subagents, and workflows that have to call a model over and over. If the model is fast enough and cheap enough, the architecture changes. That is the part worth watching, not the launch hype. The announcement is built around three claims. First, agentic work, complex workflows where a model has to plan, use tools, and handwork between smaller agents. Second, coding. Google positions Flash against flagship systems on coding and agent benchmarks. Third, speed. In normal chat, latency is annoying. In agent workflows, latency compounds. A slower model called 100 times becomes a slow product. A fast model that is good enough can make the whole workflow feel different, especially when every retry costs time. The specs are why this is worth looking at. The Google AI docs list Gemini 3.5 Flash with text, image, video, audio, and PDF inputs. The context window is a little over 1 million input tokens, with up to 65,000 output tokens. The docs also list function calling, structured output, search grounding, and code execution. Those are not decoration. They are the pieces agents need when they read documents, inspect images, call tools, write code, and keep enough context to avoid losing the plot halfway through a task. For builders, that means this is less about one impressive reply and more about keeping a whole workflow moving without constantly swapping models or shrinking context. Multimodal input matters here too, because real workflows rarely arrive as clean text. They come as files, screenshots, charts, invoices, browser state, and messy context. The Google Cloud Proof section matters because it moves this from benchmark talk into workflow economics. The useful claim is not that every company suddenly gets magic agents. It is that fast sub-agents let teams run more tests, more checks, and more extraction passes in the same hour. For document workflows, that can mean faster extraction and verification. For enterprise automation, it means the model can sit inside higher throughput systems without making every step painfully slow. That is the real point. When intelligence, latency, and cost all improve together, teams can automate work that was previously too slow or too expensive to run at scale. The important detail is multiplication. One model call can feel cheap. Hundreds of model calls inside a real agent can become the product cost. Flash is designed for that repeated call world. This is where the launch becomes practical. A team does not need a model to win every benchmark if the system can run more attempts, more validation, and more recovery steps before the user notices. That is why this belongs in architecture discussions, not only model news chatter. The official hands-on clips show what Google wants builders to imagine. Brand agents, self-improving games, agentic cities, animated HTML, payment interface iteration, and design-to-code loops are all different shapes of the same idea. A model is no longer only answering a prompt. It is watching a goal, changing an artifact, checking the result, and trying again. That is why Flash matters more for agents than for normal chat. If the model is called once, a faster response is nice. If the model is called 50 times across planning, tool use, retries, and verification, speed becomes product quality. The clips should still be treated as demos, not proof that every workflow is solved. But they do show the direction. Lower latency models make iterative software, design, and business workflows feel much more plausible. The design clips are especially useful because they show repeated refinement, not just one final image. The agentic city and game examples make the same point in a different wrapper. The model is being sold as a worker inside a loop, not as a talking box at the edge of the app. That framing is important. The best agent systems usually do not depend on one heroic prompt. They depend on planning, tool feedback, intermediate checks, memory, and controlled retries. A fast model lets you spend more calls on those guardrails instead of saving every call like it is precious. Read the demos as useful direction, not final production proof. The benchmark table is strong, but it is not a clean sweep. Google highlights agentic and coding rows like MCP Atlas, Tolaflon, OS World, Terminal Bench, SW Bench Pro, and a long context row at 1 million tokens. Gemini 3.5 Flash looks competitive in several places. It also trails GPT and Claude in some rows. That is exactly why the story should not be told as one model crushing everything. The better read is this: the model is close enough on quality, while being packaged for speed, tools, long context, and agent loops. That combination can matter more than winning one isolated score. If your workflow is a single difficult reasoning task, you may still pick a heavier model. If your workflow is hundreds of medium-hard calls with tools, Flash becomes a much more interesting default. The benchmark story is really a routing story. Choose the model that fits the job. That routing decision is where real cost savings show up. There are caveats. Status wording differs across the official surfaces. Pricing can change. Benchmarks are not production behavior. And agent demos always look cleaner than real deployments. So do not overhype it as a guaranteed replacement for every flagship model. Treat it as a serious option for workflows where repeated model calls are the bottleneck, then test it against your own tasks before changing architecture. The claim worth testing is throughput, not magic. That keeps the claim measurable instead of vague. The practical verdict is simple. If you build agents, test Gemini 3.5 Flash early. It is aimed at coding loops, tool calls, subagents, long context, and high-volume workflows. The win is not just that it is fast. The win is speed and cost at a quality tier that may be close enough to change how agent systems are designed. That is the real takeaway from this launch, not a chatbot upgrade, but agent fuel. Start with the tasks that call models repeatedly, then compare speed, accuracy, and total cost.